You've been on a lot of adventures.
A few.
Do you got one that pops to mind that probably, besides the fact of being the reigning holder of the Sea Stories, you must have an adventure out there that our listeners and viewers would probably like to know about.
The most memorable events in my diving career, I think, actually involve instruction and teaching. And and there's just small moments, but yet they were quite significant in, my career is learning how to be an instructor. And there's many that come to mind, but one I can remember to anybody who's listening that is in the business of teaching diving. It was one of my mentors, Tori Van Dyke.
Sure, Tori Van Dyke.
And we would go to a place in Hood Canal, the Sunrise Motel, and we would bring our students up there and spend every other weekend for 15 years.
That's a kind of an incredible story. Now, you're going up to Sunrise Dive Resort.
Yes.
You meet your wife.
Actually, yes. Tommy introduced me to my wife, Jody, 36 years ago. And,
at the Sunrise. They own the Sunrise, right?
Her parents did.
Okay.
And she wasn't a diver. She didn't normally go there, but she was there, and Tom introduced us. And it took off from there.
So here you are teaching students how to dive. The daughter of the owner of the dive site is there watching you dive, and you end up marrying her, and you've been married for 37 years. How many kids?
Yes, 2 kids.
2 kids?
And 2
One's a
grandkids
commercial
now.
diver?
Mike is, goes all over the world diving. And it's
incredible.
Quite an adventure.
That is an adventure.
I'd like to say I planned it, but actually it was just random events, so. But I want to tell you that Tori, that little adventure was, we were taking students. He was leading, 2 students behind him. I was following. I was the assistant in limited visibility, and we're swimming in long days and cold water in a U.S. diver stock wetsuit. And the 2 divers in front of us, one of them turned, spit out his regulator, and before I could even realize what was happening, I thought, oh, it's a real emergency. Something's happened. And we didn't have octopus regulators or safe seconds, so I pulled my regulator out, beginning to initiate buddy breathing.
Buddy breathing, sure.
And before I could and I had my eyes on him, out of the darkness came a big hairy fist and grabbed the diver by the front of his BC, put the regulator in the mouth, signaled to me and the assistant to go up and stay close. It was Tori. To the surface, rescue effected, everybody's fine. Everybody's pink, everybody's still breathing. Later that evening, we're warming up, and I just kept thinking about that, how Tori affected that rescue before I could even, when he had his back to it. And you know what he said? I said, how did you realize there was an emergency? He said, I heard him.
You heard him?
He heard him. He heard him stop
10
breathing.
feet away, he heard him.
Turned around, came back.
He was listening to all the students in and out on the regulators. And
so when these new instructors are thinking about being aware, watching, paying attention.
Global aware, that's incredible.
It's pretty good. So, yeah, instruction, the mentors I had, full of little adventures like that are memorable to me anyway.
If you look back at the early days of scuba diving with you, what would you think is probably the biggest advance? What has changed the most from then and today that you can recognize?
First of all, I love technology, but like everybody that does it for a while, I get trapped in my own comfort with certain things. So it would have to be either the fins or the computers to me, both of which were foisted upon me by my team because I wouldn't give up my plywood plastic fins. So they took them away. And
plywood plastic fins.
That's what they were the consistency of. I still have them, and they were just boards. And they wanted me to try the vented fins. I wouldn't until one day I went in the mobile dive unit to grab my fins, and there were these new vented things. Of course, you already know, after 10 minutes with those, I completely forgot about my other ones. And they did the same thing with my bottom timer, mechanical bottom timer device. and replaced it with this computer, which was about that big at the time. And of course, I became hooked on that. So to me, you know, it's that technology. So those would be probably the most significant ones. Because then the BCs, and you go on and on and on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis, I really appreciate your taking the time out of your busy day to hear my questions. But is there anything you would like to finalize with that maybe I didn't ask you, or did you some important aspect that members of the Northwest Historical Dive Association would benefit from for generations to come?
Well, I think the final thought would be that probably the most significant contribution I've made to diving is working with the Northwest Indian tribes. And I just realized
that's
last
an incredible
week,
achievement. You know, I was thinking about that. Let's tell us about that. Yeah.
Well, it just the day before April Fool's Day, my electronic PDA set off an alarm, and I looked at it. It was the 20th anniversary of the first class that I taught for the Northwest Indian tribes. So in '95, the tribe's treaty rights were reinstated, historic treaty rights, so they could harvest the available 50% of the available shellfish in their usual and accustomed areas. And previous to that, they hadn't been doing it. The non-tribal people had been harvesting it. And the main product was the gooey duck, the giant clam.
So were they free diving on these before that?
No,
or they just didn't go after them?
They didn't go after. They would dig them sometimes at low tide.
Okay.
But the product was harvested by divers that were non-native. And when they did that, they came to Divers Institute because they realized we need to learn how to do hard hat diving or surface supply diving. And they came there, and the owner of the school at that time, John Manlove and John Ritter, they asked me to go talk with these Indians that wanted to learn how to dive. And that was a special programs instructor, so okay, very, very good. I went with them, found out what their goals were. And my first statement was, we have the perfect program for them to be harvest divers, 7 months long, $22,000, and they'll be a harvest diver.
$22,000.
And of course, they came with the impression that it would take a weekend. So there was some disparity between where we were at. And we ended up eliminating the things that they didn't need: welding, saturation diving, deep, diving. And then we came up with a 4-week program, and we began the program at Divers Institute, but very quickly, because of the demand for this harvest, it was overwhelming the facilities. So the owners of the school wanted me, and we agreed that I would go part-time. I would teach two weeks of the month, and then 2 weeks I would train the tribes. So I set up a mobile diving unit, a big truck with all the gear, and I would drive from Nia Bay to Shelton, depending on where we're at. Where's this, Washington?
Here's Shelton right here.
And here's Nia Bay.
You would go from Nia Bay all the way to Shelton.
Depending on, for where I was at, which tribe needed me, and I would schedule it. And for probably 10 years, I worked 6 or 7 days a week, filling the pipeline. All these divers wanted to make the big money. And I learned that there were 13 tribes. And this year, we're continuing that program. We will hit 3,000 students. That'll happen this year. And so I made lots of friends in Indian country, and that's been my primary occupation for the last 20 years. About 8 years ago, I got tired of a traveling road show, so I domiciled my business with the Nisqually tribe, kind of centrally located near Olympia area. And then we began building a marine academy, diving academy, and a marine services program. So now we have our department of the tribe, Marine Services, Nisqually Marine Services. We train divers, and then we do commercial diving operations. And mainly we're involved in cleaning up the Puget Sound. So that's kind of our specialty. So we do surveys and remove wooden creosote pilings and different debris.
And at the same time, you've got the training program to train the new Native Americans to come and do.
And they come to us now rather than me go to them.
That's incredible.
It's been very rewarding. I've enjoyed that.
And what do we see in the future for Dennis Lucia?
Well, we have several events going on. One of them is that yourself and I have taken ownership, along with another gentleman, of the salvage sheet, the same vessel that began this story.
It's going to be an exciting future there, I can tell you.
And with your guidance and connections, it's going to end up being located in Astoria, Tongue Point.
Yes.
It'll be utilized by the Maritime Academy, commercial divers, trainees, the U.S. Army.
That's right.
And other, I'm sure, armed forces. It'll be a training center, a real ship, which is actually lacking in all the schools I've gone to in the United States for deep sea diving and associated subjects. There's never been a ship involved. So this is very exciting, and we're moving ahead on that.
From reading the book, what was the title of the book again?
Tough Men, Tough Country, The Prince of Salvage.
Prince of Salvage.
Yeah.
Of the salvage chief to owning the salvage chief. That's a hell of a career.
It is.
That is an incredible career.
I wish I could say I planned any of it.
Yeah.
We didn't, So it's been a lot of fun. It's been an adventure, Floyd. And
well, we look forward to seeing more of Dennis Lucia, and I appreciate very much you spending the time for me today. I'm sure the members of the Northwest Historical Dive Association appreciate your time, and
hope so.
And we look forward more to maybe getting some photos of those old days. We'll put on the website and kind of back up the stories. Maybe get a copy of that book of your uncle's on, and we'll move forward with that as well.
That'd be great.
Did you ever work, before I finish, Spence Campbell was here yesterday.
Yes.
And did you ever work with Spence at all?
No, but he taught at one of the most prominent deep sea diving schools, in my recollection, in the United States, which was Highland Community College of Marine Technology 2-year program. And while his tenure there, I did different parts of training at the school. We did BELSAT training and other different training programs.
BELSAT training. They were pretty intense with that, though.
Yeah, they were one of the schools that actually had a full system that actually got wet.
Wow.
Instead of theory. Yeah.
Right. Practical experience.
Yes. And so Spence, and then over the years, Spence has been a mentor in, of course, teaching, course directing, training instructors. And so we all know he's excellent at that, and I'm fortunate to learn a lot from him.
Dennis, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure,
I appreciate
Floyd.
it very much. Thank you for coming in, and
absolutely.
We look forward to working with you in the future.
It'll be fun for sure. It'll be an adventure.
Thank you.